Welcome back everybody to BenguFarm training videos. In today's video we're going to look at the herd layout on the main screen, and we're going to cover some topics like selecting columns and setting up your own views, sorting data, filtering data, grouping data, and selecting animals on your main screen, linking them to group and opening in different functions. The first reaction of clients seeing the herd layout for the first time is most often overwhelming, and that's because the herd layout contains a multitude of columns with different types of data in it. And to find data, you need to scroll back and forth, and you don't know where to find it, and it just isn't practical. So not all clients want to see all the data, and we're first going to look at how to set up the screen for you to see the data that only you want to see and hide those columns that you don't want to see. So to do that, you'll go to display options here at the bottom left hand corner of the screen, and your options will open. You will see that your different columns that's grouped under different headings are all displayed here in this tree layout here. So for example, if you don't want to see the herd, you can click on the herd and the herd column will disappear. If you want to see it again, you'll just tick it on and the herd column will appear again. And that you can do for all the fields that you are not interested in. What you can also do on a specific category, let's take birth for example. If you want to see none of the birth columns, you can deselect all of them, but the easier option is to, next to birth, deselect the tick there. Then all of the birth columns will disappear. Also at the bottom of the screen, there's two buttons, and you can say display all columns, and all the columns will be selected again, or you can say hide all columns. And now you can start to set up the screen and say, I want the ID number, for example, the category of the animal, and so forth and so forth. What you'll also see at the bottom of the screen is the save and load the layout. So this selection of columns that you made, you can save. So I can give it a name. Let's say training example, and I can go and save this layout. Now this previous layout saved in our example. I'm going to load the default one. So the one you want to load, you select it and you click here on the load button. And all those fields that you selected previously and saved as a name will be loaded for you. If you want to load another view, I'm going to load our training example one. You select our training example and I'm going to load that. And only those columns I selected there will be shown to you. So you should be able to see that for different work scenarios, you can set up different views and save them. And when you're in a certain work scenario and you only want to see the applicable data, then you'll load the layout. For example, in this herd we have here, there's one layout called cows. I'm going to load it. And the birth information is the inspection, the camp, the reproduction data, the last mating, pregnancy information, and progeny information, weights and breeding values. You may want to see less of them, and to go back, say for example, you don't want the breeding values, I can just deselect all the breeding values. They're not there, and I can just save the layout again with the same name, and the layout will be overwritten. So next time I load my cow layout, the breeding values will not be included. You can also delete the layout. You'll select the layout you want to delete. Say for example, I want to delete the bulls layout. and you click on the delete button. It will ask you, do you want to delete the layout? And you can select yes or no. We don't want to delete it now, so I'm gonna select no. The next aspect we want to look at is that you can display a certain groups of a certain category, and you'll see it here on the top. It's also in your the display options. So you'll select here display groups, and by default it will be management groups. So a column will be added to you, and in which management group the animal is currently in will be displayed for you. You can select also one of your other categories, for example, temporary groups, and the temporary groups will be displayed for you. And you can deselect it again if you don't want to see it. So if you set up different groups for yourself, it's an easy way to see in which group the animal is of that specific category of groups. Look at some other functionality of your herd layout. And the first thing to look up here is at the bottom in the footer is totals and averages. So we can see we've got 308 animals here. And in your weight column under birth, with other words, your birth weight, the average birth weight of the animals that has a birth weight is 35. And you'll have averages and totals in your different fields. The next function is that data in any column can be sorted. So by default, the sort will be on the ID number of the animal, the visual ID number. You'll see that little arrow there. It's sorting in ascending order. You can click on it again and it will sort in an opposite direction. If I want to sort by family code, I can just click on family code and it will be sorted by family code from the earliest ones to the latest ones. And again, if you click on it again, the sorting direction will change. If you want to sort by multiple columns, you can't just click on a column and click on a second column, because once you click on a second column, the sorting on the first column you selected is lost. So say for example, I want to sort by season, and secondarily I want to sort by dam. What I will do is I'll select my season, holding my shift key, and then I'll click on the second column I want to sort by. So here's all my 2017 S animals, and then the dam is sorted. And after that, I got my 2017 W animals, and the dams are sorted there. And you can add so many columns to this sorting as you want. And you'll select it in the order in which you wanted to sort. Another facet we want to talk about is filtering. And filtering on the headlight works more or less the same as in Excel. We have auto filtering. If you move over the column headings, you will see a small filter icon appears. And you can click on that filter icon. So say for example, I only want to see data of animals born in a certain lambing or calving season. I'll click on the filter and you can go and mark. So say for example, I want to see the 2024 S animals. The data is immediately filtered and your totals are also updated with the animals that's on the screen. And you'll see in the bottom right hand corner, the active filter is listed. So you can deactivate the filter and see all the animals by clicking on the X here. So if we go back to our lambing season, you can also filter on multiple seasons. So say for example, I want to filter on that 2024 S and the 2024 W season. I can click both of them and the data now being displayed will be both seasons. And again, your totals are reflective of the data that's being displayed on the screen. You can also add additional filters for other columns. So say for example, I want to see these animals born in these lambing seasons or calving seasons, and also just for ones of them that are currently in camp number 4. And it's only those 3 animals. And we go to our bottom, you will see your season is in 2024S and 24W, and the camp is equal to C4. You can remove a filter by just deselecting the filter values, or you can also select all. Now for most of the filters, there's additional options. If we go back to our season, you will see there's text filters because this is a text field. And we're not going to go into detail here. It's only for you to be aware that additional filters are available. So please go and play with them. If we go to a numeric field, for example, like weight, and you go to numeric filters, you will see the list of filters is more comprehensive than that just for a text field. And if we go to one of our date fields, I'm just going to unfilter here, go to one of our date fields, you will see the additional filters, apart from the values, looks a little bit different. Okay, so that's filtering. You can filter out on as many columns as you wish, and the more you filter, obviously, the less data you will see on the screen. Going with filters, there's also a search function that is located here top right hand corner of the screen. If you click there, text box will appear, and whatever you type in this text box, it will look over all the fields in your herd layout and filter out wherever that value appears. So if I go and say 2024, everywhere that's 2024 somewhere in the data will be filtered out. Let's go 2024S. You will see now it's filtering out on our last existing mating. That's in that season. And here at the bottom is also the lambing season of certain animals, that is 2024. This can be actually useful to search for animals, for example, and specifically search for EIDs. So if we view our EID column here, just go and drag it a little bit wider so we can see the number. You can type in any part of the EID. So let's use this one for example, and I can just start by typing in the last numbers or the whole EID if you want to, but just for explanation here, 803.144 is where it ends, and only that one will appear. If there is 803.144 in any other data, more columns will be displayed for you. If you want to remove that filter, just click on the X next to it. So the next function we want to look at is grouping. And grouping is where data that is similar or is the same is grouped together. And with grouping, you will see there's also group totals. And the easy way to explain this to you is by using lambing season. So you can do it in 2 ways. You can either right click on the column, and there you can say group by this column. Another option will be is to click on the column and drag it here to the top, and then the data will be grouped. So there's all your lambing seasons and they are grouped together. So you can see, for example, in 2022S, there's 31 animals. If you want to see the specific animals, where are the 31 animals that's currently active that was born in that lambing season. You can also filter on the next level. So say for example, we want to also filter by section. We can just add it here. So on the first level, we're filtering on the season, and the second level, we are filtering on the section. There's one animal, that's section B, and there's 30 animals, that is section SP. And you'll see your group totals here. The group totals for that animals are 35.6, 24.7 for large stock units, and so forth and so forth. You ungroup by right clicking here on the group, and you can say ungroup. I'm just going to ungroup here by section first. Ungroup. And now we just group by sections. So for example, again, there's 261 SP animals. And for your SP animals, you can go down to the group footer. And if you move back and forth, you'll see the averages for those animals. We only want to see, for example, our pending animals. There's 7 of them. And there's my 7 animals that's pending registration. Ungroup by this one also. Right click and you say ungroup. And that is grouping and filtering and searching for data. So if you filter or search for animals, it's handy to do something with those animals. So let's go and we say we want all the animals that is in our 2024 S season and whose birth weight is from 30, let's say, just for example's sake, from 35, we just type it here. I've only got 2 animals. Let's make it a little bit less, make it 30. So there's all my animals in 2024 S that weighs 30 and higher. And I can go and select these animals. You can also use your selection buttons here. Select all of them, select none, or select between. Select between the first and the last one in your range, and you select between that button to swap your selection. But let's say we want to select all of them. So what we can do now is we can link them to a group. The animals that selected, we can link them to a group, or we can, for example, display it in a My report. So we can display them in a My report. Watch our extra video of a My reports to see all the additional options you have here, like, for example, selecting additional columns you want to see. More or less the same as the herd layout. We can select extra columns. Or the animals that is also selected will be open if you select one of the other functions. If I go to animals, for example, and I say edit animals, opened on a separate screen here. Only those 4 animals that I selected here on my main screen will be loaded into the screen. It doesn't work for all the screens, but it works for the most important screens. So for example, these 4 animals, you want to all mark them out, sell them. You can go to mark out, enter the information and say create records for the selected group of animals. And then those 4 animals again that you selected here on the main screen are the ones that will be added to the screen. So selecting the animals and filtering them out on your herd layout makes it possible for you to link them to groups, to display reports for them, and also to as a selection tool for input in other windows. Other thing we just want to show about the herd layout, we talked about dragging the columns to set the size. Here at the bottom is also a button that says auto width. So it will automatically apply width to each column so that the data fits into the column. And another thing about the main screen is if you enter data on different other screens, the main screen doesn't automatically update. So if you want to update the main screen, you can go here to the bottom and say refresh screen, and the data will be reloaded. The refresh button is also available here in your toolbars at the top of the screen. That is this for this video. Please watch our additional windows where we'll talk about highlighting. Highlighting is where data is highlighted in different colors depending on ranges of values that you set up. And there's another subject we will cover is display my columns, where you can put additional data in the herd view layout. So that will be, for example, can show vaccinations, other measurements, scores, etc. in your main view of a herd layout that's not available by default. Thank you for watching and see you next time.